If you've been feeling like something big is shifting, like you are being invited to your next big level up, but you can't quite put your finger on what this is, chances are you're not imagining it. September 2025 is bringing some of the most transformative energy of this year, which is already a very transformative year, with the second eclipse season of the year. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to turn the cosmic chaos into your strategic advantage. I'm Chrissy, and today I'm guiding you through the second eclipse season of this year. Because these eclipses are coming, whether you're ready or not. And depending on which points of your chart these eclipses are activating, this could potentially be a major turning point for you this year. And I want you to be able to reclaim the narrative and understand exactly what is going on so that you can steer your life into the direction that you want it to go. And as always, I will be providing you with plenty of practical tools that you can apply to truly make the most out of this volatile, but also incredibly powerful energy. So we're looking at two key dates here where the influences are going to be the strongest. For one, on the 7th of September, we have a total lunar eclipse at 15 degrees Pisces. And then on the 21st of September, on the equinox, we have a partial solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo, the final degree of Virgo. And with eclipses, we do tend to say that you may already feel their influence about 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. So we're talking a transformation window that starts really at the end of August and goes all the way into the first week of October. So think of this entire time frame a little bit like your performance review in a way. The Pisces lunar eclipse is showing you where there is some emotional baggage that you need to let go of, and then the Virgo solar eclipse is giving you the game plan for what is coming next that you weren't able to anticipate before. And this is going to be especially applicable to those who have any angles or planets, especially personal planets, very close or opposing any of these eclipses. So if you have any angles or planets at around 15 degrees Pisces, 29 degrees Pisces, 15 degrees Virgo, 29 degrees Virgo, these are going to be especially activated by these eclipses, so you will feel this the most. Especially if we're talking about your moon. If your moon is near any of these eclipses, I urge you not to book yourself up around those dates too much, because a lunar or solar eclipse around your natal moon is really exhausting. It really drains the energy out of you. A lot of people report downright sickness symptoms, like you're coming down with the flu, but you're not really, you just don't have the energy levels. And something opposite kind of is happening if your sun, natal sun, is around any of those degrees, plus minus 10 degrees, but of course the closer, the more pronounced the effect will be. If it's your sun that is close to either of these two eclipses, you may feel like you have a surplus of energy, but not necessarily in the let's go out and get them kind of way, but that you may feel a lot more irritable. Like people and situations just happen to rub you the wrong way, and you're aware that this is happening, but you don't know why it's happening. Well, the reason is because of the solar and lunar eclipses. So again, you may want to have a little bit more time on your own, just minimize the potential for any conflict that might otherwise arise. And which is totally normal for the conflict to arise if you are not really feeling yourself around this time. So for this eclipse season, I want to look at this particular Saros cycle. So if we take a little step back first, in case you don't know what a Saros cycle is. The way that lunar and solar eclipses happen, we won't go into the full astronomical detail of this because that goes way beyond the scope of this video. But what you need to know about the way that it applies to you, to your life, is that solar and lunar eclipses are kind of born in quotation marks, at either the South Pole or the North Pole. And then they tend to snake their way around the entire globe until they end up at the other pole from the one that they started at. And the reason this is important or significant is that we have observed as astrologers, as people in general, is that a particular eclipse that belongs to the same cycle tends to carry the same characteristics with it. And that's why you may feel totally wiped out from one eclipse and maybe some really dramatic things happen in your life on another, and then the next couple it's just plain sailing and nothing much happens. And that is for one reason, because we need to look at your personal chart and how this eclipse activates your chart, but also at the specific Saros cycle. Some are a lot more dramatic, some are a lot more calm, some will activate certain areas in your life, and others will shift the focus to something else. And with this second eclipse season of this year, 2025, we are looking at Saros cycle 9 new South. And what we've found historically tends to come up during these eclipses, especially again if your chart is activated, if you have any personal placements around these eclipses, are fears or worries around health, either your own health or that of family members, miscommunications and issues or delays with paperwork. Now, this is not a reason to panic, because when we're saying that fears are activated, that doesn't actually mean that anything terrible is going to happen. It just means that a fear that has already been there prior to any of these eclipses is coming to the foreground. Maybe something happens that triggers that fear, but the fear was there all along. And the very interesting thing is that when the fear was there all along, then the solution probably has been there all along as well. You just haven't looked for it in the right place, maybe you didn't ask the right people, or maybe you've just kind of been pushing this fear down, kind of saying that this is not a priority in your life right now, deprioritizing this. So this lunar and solar eclipse may really throw this onto you and force you to deal with this issue where you have realistically been leaking energy, because every time you try to push a fear down, that's energy. It's costing you energy. It's costing you your attention. And your attention is one of, if not the most valuable resource that you own. So in this respect, anything that comes up really is a blessing, because it makes you look at these things, it makes you look for the solution, and then you gain so much more attention and freedom and energy from it. And really we are looking at the lunar eclipse activating these fears, and then the solar eclipse, which comes a couple of days later, is where you are finding the solution. And the solution, because we're looking at 29 degrees of Virgo, is most likely going to come through better organization, better planning, or a better strategy in some kind of way. And the trick really is to see anything that comes up not as a disaster, but as data, as a learning opportunity. Okay, here's the fun part. It is actually possible to get ahead of the curve in any of these things. When I said earlier, fears about your health or the health of family members, communication, miscommunication, and paperwork, did you get an unpleasant gut feeling? Like something that came up where you thought, oh no, I hope it's not that. Because if you did, that's your clue. That's your intuition, which is already ahead of the curve, telling you, okay, this is something we need to look at. This is something we've been avoiding, but really we need to look at this. So pay attention to that. Pay attention if anything came up where you thought, oh my God, I hope it's not this and that, because I don't want to deal with that, or for whatever other reason, which is totally okay. But you know, you may be forced to look at it. And if you want to get ahead of the curve, then you will probably experience things a lot less dramatically and of your own accord. You know, this whole channel is about giving you back agency and giving you back power over where you are taking your life. So take the agency and start thinking about whatever that issue is that came to your mind. Just name it, because just naming it and just looking at it can take a lot of that fear out of the situation. You know, a lot of the times fears, when they just swirl around in our minds, they become these like three-headed, long-clawed teeth monsters that are impossible to face. But once we actually speak them out loud, or even put them down on paper, or maybe talk them through with somebody that we trust, they become a lot less scary once they're out in the open. Fears thrive on not being directly addressed. As soon as you directly address them, they shrink. They get a lot smaller and a lot less terrifying. And here we want to especially look at it from an angle of processes, routines, and systems. So if we're looking at health, where have you been routinely doing something that you know maybe isn't very good for your health? Or maybe you've been routinely avoiding doing something that you know makes a very big positive difference to your health. And no judgment here, because we all do these things. But start thinking about it. Start thinking if there is a niggling kind of feeling about anything you've been doing or not doing. And how can you reintroduce the good habits? Or introduce something that will make the negative habit superfluous and obsolete, essentially. If we're looking at paperwork, are you drowning in paperwork? Are there any forms? Is there any unopened mail that's been laying around on the side that you haven't dealt with? Any of those kind of visits to some kind of governmental department that you have to do that you just really don't want to because it's a hassle, but you know that it needs to be sorted? Start looking at that. In terms of communication, again, look at the systems around your communication. Is there somebody you're not keeping up with just because you are not remembering? Is your email inbox just totally flooded and you've lost track and you are worried? Maybe there's a little niggling worry that you may be missing important things because you're just so overloaded with your inbox, with your messages, with everything, that you're just drowning completely in communication requests, essentially. And is there a system you could use to just blitz through these quickly and see if there's anything important that you've missed that is time critical and should be actioned as soon as possible? Do you have backups for your technology? Is this your reminder that you haven't backed up your computer or your phone for a very, very long time and maybe you should start doing it again? Let this be your reminder. If you get ahead of the curve, if you start looking at these before the eclipses, then chances are that any events that happen are going to be a lot less dramatic. It may be the kind of situation where you get this kind of, ooh, that could have gone a lot worse kind of feeling, but it was fine because you were proactive about it, because you took charge and you took responsibility. Even if you don't, even if it is something that sidesweeps you a little bit, chances are you will be given an opportunity to fix things before they get totally out of control. It just might take a bit of an emotional toll on you. And either way, even if you did get ahead of the curve, you may still notice that emotions are kind of coming up. That's why you want to do these things and audit your systems and routines and practices beforehand, because you're probably going to have more of a clear head to do that with. During eclipse season, once the eclipses are activated, then emotions will be coming up and the emotions will need to be processed first before the logical mind can step in and to extract the lessons out of the emotional event that has happened. So what you may find is that you are looking at things really rationally before that, and then the emotions come up. And these emotions still want to be felt, they still want to be expressed in whatever healthy way that you can find, whether that's through writing, through being creative, through physical exercise, through talking to somebody, whatever your preferred mechanism is to process emotions. And pay close attention to your health, because this is the Pisces Virgo axis, so a lot of things that we are keeping buried underneath the surface, Pisces, can come out and be expressed in our physical body, Virgo, through these eclipses, essentially. And then as we near the solar eclipse, this is where it's time to take action. This is where it's time to take that emotional processing, the rational planning that we've done beforehand, and use the outcome of both of these steps to launch something new, to change your routine, to create these new communications with people, to make changes to your systems and how you do things on a day-to-day basis, to send that important email that you've drafted, to have that important conversation with somebody. I would recommend not doing it exactly on the eclipse, because if the other person's chart is also activated by the eclipse, there might be a lot of this kind of frizzy, spiky, unpleasant energy, which will get in the way of communicating clearly with each other. If the other person's having a hard time because the eclipse is activating their chart and they don't know about astrology, they haven't watched this video, they're not aware of what's going on, they may not be able to take your points in as efficiently as they normally would. So I would wait until a little bit after the eclipse, the solar eclipse, to launch these things. But essentially that is your green light, that is your go ahead, okay, let's start slowly, but let's start making changes from here on. And then finally, you've got the integration phase until about mid-October, which is when you're just going to want to observe what's happening, observe your results, see if things are going better for you, see if that niggling worry has gone away or at least subsided to a noticeable extent, and make any adjustments to your new systems. You know, systems are not set in stone. You do want to revisit them and continually rework what's working, what isn't working, where you need more flexibility, where you maybe need a little bit more discipline, and refine and rework from there. That's something that Virgo energy is so great for, is this refinement and reworking. Sometimes to a fault, but in this case we want to really use that energy to put our routines and put our systems on a whole different level. So the key areas that we want to look at for this eclipse season are, for one, health and wellness. So the opportunity that we're presented with is an increased awareness of what your body actually needs. So pay attention to how you nourish your body, what you're putting into it, how you're eating. Pay attention to how much sleep you're getting. Is there any, or are there any doctor's appointments that are due that you've been putting off? These are the things that can be coming to the forefront. Communication and technology. Glitches or tech mishaps that point out an underlying issue. Like we mentioned before, an overflowing inbox because you don't have a system in place to filter out the important stuff. Lack of backups. Even something more physical, like power outlets that have been playing around, frayed cables, those kinds of things that need replacing. Those are the things you want to take care of. Maybe some passwords need updating because they've appeared in a data leak. Those kind of niggling little things. Support networks, issues around support networks. This eclipse season is an opportunity to really see who's in your corner. And that is one that kind of needs to be left to play out. That's not really something that you can tackle beforehand. Just know that you will be rewarded with a much greater clarity on who you can rely on when you truly need them and who you can't. And appreciate that clarity for what it is, because at least you know where you stand, even if it's not what you initially wanted. And our daily operations and routines are also going to come into more of a focus. This will show us where our routines may not be serving us anymore, where things that you do on a daily basis because they used to be really good for you maybe aren't. Maybe they need to be downsized, maybe they need to be adjusted, maybe they need to be eliminated altogether. So just be open to things changing for you on a daily, really noticeable level. Okay, some things that I just want you to keep in the back of your mind is avoid making any major financial decisions on and around the lunar eclipse. Let's say about 2-3 days before, 2-3 days after. Any financial decisions that are going to impact your life in the long term. We're talking things like taking a loan, investing, changing jobs, selling your home, buying a home. Any financial decisions with long-term implications, just put them off until after the lunar eclipse. Just give it that little bit more thought, because your mind is not going to be functioning the same way that it normally functions. Your intuition is going to be working overdrive, pointing out a lot of other things to you, and you may not be able to make the decision that is actually right for you, because you're going to be so involved in so many other aspects of your life. So just put it off for a while, if you can, of course. But usually there is a little bit of time to think about it with any kind of major financial decision. So take that time, make the most of it. And also don't ignore any signals from your body, even if it's something that seems really minor. If you twist your foot and you're just like, oh, I'll just walk it off, it'll be fine. Get it looked at. Get things looked at. Don't ignore the signals from your body, because they will be very, very important during this time. Okay, and here is your personal homework to truly master this eclipse season and make the most out of it. Before the 7th of September, I want you to look at your life and I want you to identify one system that you currently have. It can be related to anything, can be health, can be work, can be relationships, whatever you want. And one system that is not working for you right now. One system that is failing, that is not doing what it's supposed to do, and is not making your life easier, which is the whole point of systems. I want you to identify it before the lunar eclipse. Then, during eclipse season, between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, replace it. Get rid of it. Don't improve it, don't tweak it. Get rid of it, replace it with something else. Then come back and let me know in the comments what you changed and how that worked for you. Remember, you can always go back to the old system. If the new one turns out to be not for you, you can always go back, but you will have that extra insight on how you can improve it and how you can make your systems work for you. You know, eclipse season gets a really bad rap for being chaotic, and it can be chaotic, but usually it's only chaotic if you're unprepared. If you have a game plan, then eclipse season can turn into total rocket fuel to make the changes that you know you need. You've just been putting off because you were comfortable and you wanted to stay comfortable. And if this resonated with you and you would like to have more astrological content like this that you can apply to your life, to your business, to your relationships, to everything, to gain that advantage and truly take agency over what's going on in your life, then make sure you're subscribed. I release a new video every fortnight with practical tools, tips to get you ready for what's coming. And if you're ready to go deeper into how you personally can use your personal astrology to craft your own personalized toolkit and craft your own personalized strategies for living life to the fullest, then check out the consultation link in the description bar below, where you can book a one-to-one consultation with me. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I'll see you next time.